So let's say you love all the things and you want to make a business out of all those things, but you know yourself and you know that putting all of those eggs into all of those baskets is just going to drive you crazy and nothing's going to work because you're too distracted. So how can you pick the right business to start for someone with ADHD? Let's get into it. Hey, I'm Megan Brame. Welcome to my channel. I'm a 5-time award-winning entrepreneur and business strategist. I teach multi-passion creatives how to create sustainable revenue across all their platforms. Now, that typically means that my clients have ADHD, but if that's not you, don't worry. You're welcome here too, because my strategies will work for anyone who wants to run multiple businesses without burning out. Just a quick disclaimer, ADHD is a spectrum and affects everyone differently. So what may work for me may not for you. My best advice is to try whatever feels like it would trigger your natural motivations, or take the foundation of these tips and find the part that best aligns with the way that you thrive. Now, I know how your brain works, so just as a heads up, I will create chapters for all of this and leave them below so that you can jump around as you need. First, let's talk ADHD. There's not just a challenge or a bad day. It's a set of unique traits that some people call superpowers in the entrepreneurial world. I'm a little dubious about the word superpower. But regardless, there are things that are inherent to us with ADHD that are beneficial when you're starting a small business. The ability to hyperfocus, that natural creativity, and the ability to think outside the box. Those are just a few. So if you think about it, starting a business requires passion. And I'm gonna make a little bit of an assumption here, but if you have ADHD, then you most likely have intense areas of interest for now. I know that those can kind of flitter away, but let's just pretend right now you have enough of a passionate interest in 2 or 3 things that you think you can ride these out for the long term. So what you should do is harness that, is lean into that, because a business that aligns with your interests is going to be so much better situated to keep you going on those hard times, because business always comes with hard times. I wish it didn't. I wish I could protect you from it, but it's true. Now, passion for something is great, but viability is key. So what you're going to have to do is take those interests and start conducting some market research. So let's say you love fitness, you love cooking, and you love painting. Think there's a business in one of these somewhere. So instead of picking one and going with it, we're gonna look into all 3. Now, conducting actual market research is intense, and so I don't want you to do that just yet. What I want you to do instead is take these 3 and make a couple of lists. Again, it's really preliminary. You don't need to get too hardcore into it, but what you should be looking for is interest, market share, so how many competitors you're gonna have to deal with, and if you can notice a gap in the marketplace. Your best bet to find gaps in the marketplace is to go on relevant subreddits or on competitor social media and look for people saying, I wish, or it would be great, or 2 and 3 star reviews on places like Amazon or even competitor websites, because those are gonna tell you that it wasn't just someone who hates the company and is totally being a jerk. They're just giving 1-star reviews. 2 and 3-star reviews are people who wanted to like the product, but it just couldn't fulfill their needs. And most of the time, when there is a 2 or 3-star review, they're telling you why they gave you 2 or 3 stars. This is the market research that you really should conduct. So if you're able to go on, let's say 3 women's fitness subreddits, or 3 vegan cooking subreddits, or what was the other one I said? Or 3 e-commerce brands that specialize in watercolor painting supplies, and you look for times when people are saying, I wanted to love this, it just wouldn't work. And if you find enough of that, that can give you key insight into what is missing in the marketplace. And that can help you narrow it down from, I have these 3 passions, I think each one is a viable business, to maybe fitness is a little too much of a saturated market for me to break into right now. Vegan cooking and watercolor, these look more viable. Basically, you're creating Survivor, but for your interests. So let's say you have whittled it down into one or the other. Now you've got to start thinking about what that business model looks like. What are you going to do with vegan cooking? What are you going to do with watercolor art? Are you going to be a wholesaler of supplies? Are you going to be a recipe service? Where is this business that you see that you noticed because of the market gaps? And as someone with ADHD, I know that it can get really daunting and overwhelming thinking about all of these nitty-gritty details, especially if like you just want to start the business, you don't care about this kind of stuff. So opt for simplicity. Don't feel like you need like an executive summary business plan. You don't need that. You need a straightforward business model that says, this is the pain point I see in the market. This is how I will solve that pain point. Problem, solution. Everything else is details that we can work on, but this is the part you need to nail down. If you can't figure out what the problem in vegan cooking is that your solution could provide, it's probably not the one to go with. If instead you find that there is a problem a lot of watercolor artists are facing that you think you could fix, that's your business. Congratulations. And again, if you're still thinking there's 3 viable options, that's fine. But that doesn't mean that they all have to launch at the same time. You can do one, see how that goes in the marketplace, and then add another or add the third one. There doesn't have to be a permanent removal of this opportunity for you. There are always going to be times when you have the ability to expand your market. So what we're focusing on right now is just the first one. What is that first one we want to start today? So let's say that you have decided to become the watercolor artist business. You found the problem, you have found a solution. What are those nitty-gritty details we've got to get into? And this is where, I'm going to say a bad word, structure comes into play. I know, I don't like saying structure either. I know you don't like it, I don't like it, but that doesn't have to be awful. The only reason we're saying structure is that we're going to have to find some way to break those nitty-gritty things into manageable steps that you can handle that will still keep your interest peaked. So when you start thinking about the brand, what are the colors? What does the logo look like? What are the values? What kind of verbiage are you using in your copy? All of that stuff. That's one area. Next is, who is your customer? What is their avatar? How does that all work? I have a full video all about picking your target demographic in my members library that you can see for free. All you have to do is click the link in the description. You can get instant access to it. And then there is things like financials, all of this legal, website, social, all of this stuff. I don't want you to think about that right now. I want you to just think about what are the steps that you can do this week to get yourself in a good position to launch a business. And I don't mean you're launching next week. We've still got a couple of things to do by then, but I hope you can see my point with this. Our goal is to create a path for you to end up using this interest and using that hyper focus and love and deep passion you have on this interest to sprint into the launch, but in a way that it creates a viable business and not just thrown up an Etsy shop and hoping for the best. And one thing I want to mention, especially if you're bootstrapping, you're probably going to feel like this is something you have to do alone because you can't afford to bring anybody else on, or because you can't afford expensive software and apps and things like that. But that's not true. Even if you're bootstrapping, there are communities out there that are just as excited as you are about that topic and want to help. And I don't mean they want to help run your business for you for free. I don't mean that, but I mean that you have to find your community, the community that keeps you going and supports you and becomes your cheerleader, becomes that ride or die fan for life of your business because they got to watch you grow and they got to watch all of your transformation as you went. If I can give you one solid piece of advice that pertains to anyone, ADHD entrepreneur or neurotypical, find the community that wants what you have and don't shy away. A lot of us have what's called RSD, and I think that that makes us feel a little bit introverted and a little bit like we don't want to look small or to look like we don't know what we're doing. We're just starting. Like we want to go in and we want to look like the expert. We want to look like the authority, the successful business person. And that's just not the way it works anymore. People want to support you because they like you. That's what you have to keep in mind. And so get rid of that feeling of inadequacy or imposter syndrome or something like that. I know that's easier said than done, but if you can break through that and be in the community while you're still working out the details, you're going to be in such a better position. What is that woman's name? Stephanie Meyer? I think the one who made Twilight? Is that what? No, 50 Shades of Grey, right? Whoever made 50 Shades of Grey. I think that started as Twilight fanfic, right? And then the author would post her stuff on some Twilight forum, and people loved it so much that it became a book. And she was able to pitch that book because she said, look at this following. Look at all these people that love my work already. I have a platform. I have an audience. You should print my book. And they did. That's what you're going to do too. Now, I feel like I've done a lot of like shiny, happy talk. So I do want to talk about the risk involved in taking that leap. Entrepreneurship is inherently a risky business. Sorry. Especially for people with ADHD, because we are impulsive, myself included. My first business was a skincare, soap, and home fragrance business. As you can see, I had a lot going, but I was doing it all myself because I was afraid to let people in and see the nitty-gritty, and I was terrified that someone was going to see how much of a mess up I was doing. So I did it all myself. The packaging, the design, the bookkeeping, customer service, the shipping, logistics, marketing. Yeah, I did it all. Every year I would change the packaging because I wanted something new. I wanted something shiny, and I would get tired of my brand, and I would want something different, something more sophisticated or more crunchy, more Whole Foodsy, more Henry Bendel. Like I had good products. I know that because I won awards for it and because I like them. And I put myself up for failure way more times than I should have, because I couldn't stick to a branding concept. And I don't want that for you. So before you dive in, I want you to weigh the pros and cons of what you're going to do effectively and find ways to put guardrails up that prevent that impulsivity from wrecking your business. And there you go. There's a lot more, obviously, into running a business. But if you're just figuring out what kind of business you want to start, I think this video, hopefully, has given you a good idea of where you can get these seeds of ideas and start working on building that brand that you're going to love and that's going to be profitable and ensure that you have financial freedom, time freedom, freedom. Remember that the right business is the one that excites you every day and that gets you up out of bed, taking your pills, and ready to take on the world. So drop your thoughts and any questions you have in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, please subscribe to my channel for more entrepreneurial tips and business strategy for ADHD entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you in the next video.